Looks like that we got a name, chat. Looks like we got a name. Looks like we got a name, chat. Looks like we got a fucking name. Let's go, baby. This fucking scumbag. Looks like we got our fucking guy, bro.
We now have more information about this suspect. We have a name to tell you, and this is according to multiple sources and our team of reporters covering federal law enforcement, Tom Winter, Mike Cosner, our colleagues. Tyler Robinson is the suspect in custody. He is from Utah. He's in custody and with state authorities in Utah, born in 2003. And so Tyler Robinson is the name that, according to multiple sources, is the suspect who is in custody. From our reporting, we understand he has been in custody for a number of hours now. And what happens with that, as Morgan was just saying, there was a point where authorities knew very little about who this person was. Well, once you have an individual identified, many new doors open. Tyler Robinson will now be subject to having all of his electronics reviewed, subject to a search warrant, and that would be the typical process now, that once he's identified and in custody, authorities are able to get the...
Yep, they're going to try to find a co-conspirator. Bro, W, man. All you niggas that want to celebrate, hey, we don't celebrate death on this side of the internet. We celebrate justice, even though this guy's a deplorable human being.
Court permission to execute search warrants. That could be places where he lives, seizing any phones, digital footprint, any of those things. Also checking the records for the purchase of the weapon that was used here.
Keep in mind, guys, they did an E-trace on the gun. That probably also helped them get closer to him.
Can they tie that weapon to him? All of those avenues are now open to federal authorities. This is a state crime, not a federal crime on its face, meaning a murder is a state crime. They would be looking for any avenues that allow them to find some kind of federal charge, if there is one that's applicable and appropriate, to add to this case with the joint work of federal authorities and state authorities. Tyler Robinson is the suspect.
All right.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
Let's go.
On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th. In which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in that conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. Wow. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact name Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact, Tyler, also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there has been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
What the fuck? Bruh.
We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who has worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah, but I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m., where at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, The suspect was apprehended in a historic time period.
Yeah.
And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, processed that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here.
That's crazy.
We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect.
Guys, that's huge. I'll explain that after the press conference.
Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Yeah, him and Charlie were personal friends.
Thank you, and good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has
They were the first ones probably to take him in custody, if I'm not mistaken.
been a vast, a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember internet fury.
Mugshot bottom right, chat.
Going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting, there was no looting, there were no cars set on fire, there was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse.
Indicated that he had been communicating with a friend on Discord about the gun. Do you anticipate any more arrests?
We do not at this time have any information that would lead to any additional arrests.
Do you believe he acted alone?
Yes.
Okay, so they think he acted alone.
But the investigation is ongoing.
With authorities, and did he discuss a motive?
I can't answer that right now. Yeah, thank you. Over here.
That has to be talked to the cops. He didn't want to answer. I think he did talk, because if he lawyered up, he probably would have said he lawyered up.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is, what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history, or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history? Look, I mean, if you look at true political assassinations in this country of someone of this stature, this feels a lot like the late 60s. And having one so gruesomely displayed on camera in all of our hands and in all of our pockets, we are not wired as human beings, biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. That is happening, and it's happening organically right now. I had a friend in a small city in Utah who said, we're getting together, the Republicans and Democrats in my little town are getting together to have a discussion last night, just to find a way to find their better angels. So yes, this could be, I mean, again, you have to go back to JFK to have seen a video live of something like this happening. I wasn't born until 1975, but I know that things were really dark in the late 60s. Sorry to some of you. I know some of you were there. But this is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we find an off-ramp? And again, it's a choice. It's a choice, and every one of us gets to make that choice. Two more questions right here.
I don't even know what to say. And I know we probably got a bunch of people here in this space that might not be familiar with me. But the reason why this topic hits so hard to home is because me and Charlie do the same type of content. You know, you guys know I do a podcast where I debate girls. I, do a political show where I cover geopolitics. And, I also go to college campuses to debate students. And, after Charlie, I was like probably one of the only other guys with a big platform doing it. So when I saw Charlie get shot, I immediately had a very strong feelings about this. And to see this news come through that, they got the killer, I'm just praying they got the right guy, because what happened to Charlie was atrocious. The 24 hours after of seeing people celebrating his death was even more atrocious. And despite all the fucking weirdos on TikTok celebrating his death, despite all the fucking morons wishing death upon him, I've seen a couple vile people literally say, F his kids, F his wife, right? So,
actually, quick question to you, Myron, based on your experience on the FBI. The fact that he's handed himself in, would that add anything to his possible punishment, or would that not make a difference and they'll seek the death penalty irrespective?
I think the only way he's going to, avoid the death penalty at this point is, and it also depends on who takes him into custody. So this is what I predict is going to happen, right? Let's assume this guy's a shooter. Let's go ahead and play, quarterback this thing from this point forward. If he is in fact the shooter, this is what's going to happen. He turns himself in. The state police and FBI are the two agencies running this case. The state police are probably going to run this as a murder one investigation, and the FBI is going to run this as a domestic terrorism organization case, right? So the state will probably file their charges first, right? Because they need to get him on paper, get him into the judicial system, get him held, get him without bond, blah, 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 right? That's going to give ample time to the FBI to write up what's called a criminal complaint, file it with a judge, and go take him from the state and pursue him federally. Because I anticipate, since this case is so big, there's no way, and the fact that Kash Patel's a personal friend of Charlie Kirk and Pam Bondi, there's no way that they're going to let the state handle this. This case will go to the FBI. It will go to the feds. They're going to do everything in their power to push for the death penalty. And, if he's going to just stay in temporary state custody, but I don't see a scenario here where he's not going to be hit with federal charges. More than likely, probably some type of terrorism charge.
And in terms of him handing himself in, do you think the charge could be reduced, or does that not make a difference?
Very little, to be honest. I think the only way he's going to get himself from getting death penalty, he's probably going to have to take a plea deal at this point.
And even then, I think...
Nah, man, that can't, I don't mean that can't happen. This has got to be one of those, like, no deal, this is what's happening. That happens so often in the American courts where, like, guy is spared the death penalty because he cops a plea with some local DA, like the guy in Idaho. That crap happens so often here. And then what? He gets 20 years worth of appeals. Like, if he did it, he did it. If there's no ambiguity, like that shit, Myron, drives me up a wall.
Yeah.
Like,
so here's the thing.
And look, I get it, and I'm speaking from emotion right now for sure. But like, if he walks in with some public defender, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're ready to take a plea," Pam Bondi's got to go. You can try fucking off too.
Well, yeah.
Like,
the government. See, here's the beauty also with the federal government. The federal government has way more discretion to take cases, the way that they want, right? An AUSA, a federal prosecutor, the average AUSA in the United States carries somewhere between 15 to 20 cases, right, on their docket. The average assistant district attorney, which is a state prosecutor, is carrying like easily 50 to 100 cases. So this is why federal cases are able to be more complex, more long-term. The charges typically stick because the investigators in the AUSA work together from damn near the onset of the investigation to ensure that the case is going to be very tight. This is a very big difference from the state system where law enforcement officials are just making the arrest and then dealing with the whole legal process after the fact. But in the federal system, they have all their ducks in a row. By the time they're hitting your door at 6 o'clock in the morning, they already got a discovery package ready to fucking go to trial on your dumbass. And this is why the feds don't lose. Now, with the whole plea deal thing, right? I think the only way he's going to avoid death penalty is a plea deal. But you brought up a good point. Pam Bondi might reject that. I agree. So the only way he, assuming the DOJ doesn't, go back and say, oh, no, we'll give you a plea deal now, is if he had other conspirators. So if he has other conspirators, then that plea deal might work if he had other people helping him.
This is, I mean, we haven't seen a real political assassination in America in like 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, 50 years. What, since
damn near JFK.
MLK? I think Bobby Kennedy was the last one.
Yep.
You know, and now, you know, it's as this is the low that everyone worried about. Like, when is America going to hit their low point? I hope that this is it, and we don't see like, you know, like we saw in the 60s in America with like repeated assassinations, MLK and Malcolm X and Bobby Kennedy and that sort of violence continue. But I think that's why this has to be swift. It has to be as public as possible, you know, trials and whatnot.
I agree with you 100%. Wait, I don't know if anyone else has any takes, but I think his biggest fuck up was jumping off the roof and getting caught on camera there. Because that's what made him super, you know, super guilty. Now it's just obvious. So, yeah.
And also, he left like possibly fingerprints.
Oh, he did.
This is what
and a palm print. He left a fingerprint and a palm print. And that's why I was like, dude, when people were saying like, hey, I think it's a professional job, I was like, bro, you know, 200 yards with a rifle is not that hard, right? Basic marksmanship, you can hit that thing. And then, you know, not wearing gloves, jumping off the roof, not having an escape plan, all that to me showed me that he was an amateur and, you know, he literally had the adrenaline running and it got the better of him. And the fact that they caught him so quickly and, you know, had him didn't catch him physically, but kind of identified who he was, he made a lot of mistakes. Dude, everyone and their mom was saying this was the Israelis, it was Mossad. And bro, trust me, there's no, between me and you, there's no love lost for us and the Israelis. I mean, we were some of the first people to expose October 7th. So trust me, like, we hate those guys. But, you know, the evidence that people were saying just didn't prove it to me. Because, like, the thing is, if you know, like, Charlie Kirk in his position, he was very pro-Israel, bro. So, like, the whole concept of Israel taking him out, using a foreign intelligence agency to do so, like, you know, I don't think there's really enough evidence. I know some people said, oh, well, Myron, Charlie was starting to wake up right before he got killed. They wanted to get rid of him because he was going to start, you know, criticizing Israel. I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, Top Shay says, yes, quarter-right artery is severely ruptured by projectile, instantly interjecting with spinal cord to cause the body to shunt simultaneously and instantly to his brain. Was no longer receiving blood, instant death through blood loss. Unfortunately, he was gone before he landed. Wow. Okay. Instant death, man. At least he, you know, God bless him, man. The only good is this fucking shitty ass situation. I'm just glad he didn't suffer, man. I'm glad it was quick and painless, bro, and he didn't suffer. So, fucking horrible situation, but at least he didn't fucking suffer, bro.